weekly meeting podcast for the OWASP Top 10 for Large Language Model Applications. If you'd like to stay up to date with our project, please click subscribe. And if you enjoy the content or have any questions, please feel free to comment and share. Now, on to our meeting.
Welcome to January 15th meeting. I thought I'll ask today, do we have anyone who's joining for the first time?
Hey John, this is Kayur. I have joined the call for the first time. It was on my calendar. Always wanted to join, but yeah, this is my first time.
Excellent. Good to have you on board. And where are you based and what do you do then? Just an intro, a brief intro.
Sure. So I work with Walmart Global Tech. I work as an cyber intrusion analyst, and I stay very close to Washington, D.C., and I work out of the Western Virginia office.
Good to have you on the call, and hopefully we'll see you in many calls there. Anyone else who's joining for the first time? Or
Yeah, it's my first time, John V, in here.
Hi, John.
I'll throw on the camera real quick for you. Say hello, be polite. How you guys doing?
We're doing very well.
Yeah, so I work a contractor right now for Scale AI, and I do AI red teaming, and I do alignment research, reasoning research, AI risk, safety, and security research. So
fantastic. Good to have you on board. I hope you enjoyed today and looking forward to working with you. Anyone else who's joining for the first time? Nope. In that case, then you can see the agenda. I hope we've done the welcome and the newcomers. So Scott will give us a state of the project update, and then the usual format. The lead goes through the updates. We have quite a lot to cover today. Some exciting stuff that I saw there, and I think I started typing something at the end, and I didn't finish it. And an open discussion at the end. So without any further ado, why don't we move on to Scott? Scott, do you want to go through the slides, or do you want to share yours?
No, if you can forward, that's fine. I'll just say next slide.
I'll do that. Come on.
So yeah, I wanted to take a moment to kind of reflect on the work that the team has done this last year. We've gone a long way from our top 10 list to providing a broad set of guidance for the organization, for the industry, from the cybersecurity governance checklist to the solutions guide, AI threat intelligence. So this ability for us, we've been fortunate to make this shift with all the support of the community. We've now expanded to have a number of initiatives. We delivered key resources around the AI threat intelligence area, secure AI adoption, and we added our sponsorships. So a lot of what we brought into this last year was a lot of recognition. I'll share a little bit of what that growth looked like for us in the next couple of slides. So would you move to the next slide?
Yep.
So as part of our looking into 2025, I also wanted to start looking back and started to look at, how we've been growing. What are the other key things we need to think about as a community as we continue to focus on enabling the cybersecurity community around AI and generative AI security, as well as how we build our community. So we've had, as looking back on that gives us an idea of how we should start thinking about goals in the future. So looking at 2025, some of our key goals are going to be around adoption, continued growth. We've got great new initiatives, et cetera. So when I looked back at our Slack member growth, you can get an idea of what we're looking at here. So I'm tracking two things on the membership growth. One is back in Q4 2023, we were looking at the blue line is all those in the project top 10 for LLM channel. So we wanted to look at our Slack growth. And so those are unique individuals in that channel. It's difficult. Slack makes it difficult for us to get unique numbers without me throwing into a database and doing some queries. So I haven't got that fancy yet, maybe in the future. But as another way to kind of measure overall community growth, looking at all our channels. So we moved from just under, a couple thousand, just over a couple thousand in the beginning of 2023 to we've almost 2.5 times the number of members and contributors within our Slack communities. So there may be some duplicates there, but this kind of gives us a guide in terms of our overall initiatives and projects, and then how the top 10 community is looking at it. The other one here is around engagement. So how many posts are we having? And so we can also see that we're continuing to see a strong growth in participation. So just being a member is one aspect, but as we think about what we're doing to make sure we're driving and coordinating community engagement for contributions, this gives us an idea in terms of how we're seeing that growth. And once again, we're reaching, these are both tracking in the right direction. We've gone now from, like I said, a few hundred to several thousand in our contributions. So we want to keep this going. I wanted to also start to think about what some draft goals might be for next year as we start to think about both projects and contributions and outreach and how we want to start to continue to grow the community. So this is a snapshot of what we have today on our community growth. Next slide. Arshad, any questions on the previous slide?
Up there, you know, we can all feel the big change, Scott. This isn't just the numbers. You feel it on everyday work.
Yeah, it's a big change, and it's, you know, it's been fabulous with everybody diving in and being part of the community and helping make things possible. The other thing we want to measure is sort of our outreach. So not only just our community itself and how it's growing, we're looking at how we measure our overall community size. And so part of that is looking at our LinkedIn growth. And so we started out and are continuing to have a strong growth in LinkedIn. Just over the 2024, we had about 130,000 impressions, which is people looking at the LinkedIn site, basically, you know, engaging with the posts that are there. That I would consider moderate given our project and where we are today. I think there's some opportunities for us to continue to grow that. And we've seen that pick up in just the last few months, just before the end of the year. With the announcements we made in October and November, we saw, as you can see there, almost a 2,000% increase in just the last 90 days, which is a huge testament to the work that the team has been doing to publish the outreach and the response we're getting from that. And we also have a very strong growth. Our average growth quarter over quarter is a little over 60% as we continue. So we want to continue to drive that growth. I wanted to share these numbers just to give people an idea. I mean, we're all working in the trenches here sometimes, and then it's helpful sometimes to pop up and see kind of how we are impacting the industry and how our community is growing, so that we can keep continuing to do things that help foster that further. Any questions or comments on our LinkedIn growth? We also have we've had strong support. We launched our sponsors program, and we're also getting our supporters industry out there. A lot of quotes and feedback we have from the community. If you haven't checked out this page, do please check it out. It is being updated regularly. We're going to be adding some more quotes that have come in from our press and our analysts that have been looking at what the project has been doing, that we've been briefing over the last 3 to 4 months on the project and its process. So take a look here. If you have people that you want to, you know, share, this is a link you can go share with anybody. So if they're interested to see who's got what to say about the project, we're continuing to see this strong support, and we appreciate both our supporters and our sponsors' contributions as part of it. Just to add on to that, the news is picking us up. So we're also seeing broad pickup across industry publications and recognition, again, of the work that the project is doing. We're continuing to track these, so we will have metrics on these as we go into 2025 in terms of what our adoption metrics may look like. So for example, where we're starting to see people leveraging and referencing the materials, we'll put some metrics around that. The goal is to, by the end for 2025, to have a set of metrics we can start to measure the project growth from as we start to continue to contribute and build more content and guidance for the industry. And of course, we've added more. So this was the addition. We already had the 4 initiatives that we talked about before. We've now added the Agentic Security Initiative. So that's, I know, getting a lot of traction. You're going to talk more about that around ASI a little bit later in the session. But this just demonstrates, as we start to look at new projects and new initiatives, how we can be responsive to the industry, provide practical guidance, and be current and timely. And I think that's some feedback we've gotten, that our approach to make sure we're producing content and working toward iterating that content has been helpful, because it's been able to keep us both timely and relevant. And this is just the roadmap, the stuff that we have planned ahead. And I want to thank everybody for working to this. Is a lot of work that we have already outlined ahead. So there's more coming here. I will do a quick, as I mentioned in Slack, I'll put together a quick set of metrics as we look into 2025, so that we can sort of benchmark against what we want to do from this year to next year, from this last year to this year. So that's it. Just wanted to give a quick recap of what we've been doing. Any other comments, questions?
I think it's great to have that visibility and organization, Scott. Top marks. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Any questions or comments? However controversial they may be.
Yes.
No? Well, Scott, thank you very much. As I said, this is marvelous stuff. I compared to where we were in the trenches when we started, and how beautiful it is to see the impact that we have and the finesse that we have. Top marks here. Right, so now we are going to move to the lead reports, which is the different areas that we have. And I will start with the AI red teaming initiative. Who do we have from that initiative?
You have me here, at least.
Excellent. Off you go.
Yes, good. So, continuing what Scott was talking about, right? This is one of the deliverables from us. The GRT guide, right? The Gen AI red teaming guide, release 1.0. It is in RC, fatal flaw by the team. It's completed. The team has gone through, and the fatal flaws have been cleaned up. All bugs have been squished, etc., etc. Right? And announcement blog is in review. So Scott is helping, right? I know he's busy, but he's helping us. Announcement blog, and the guide is in review by editor. Scott sent it back 2 days ago. So we will go through that one, and then it should be ready for that one. Does that make sense, Scott? Any thoughts, any comments from your end as to the next steps and the kind of things?
No, that makes perfect sense. I think with the holidays, I got my brain kind of switched up, which one was the preview and which one was the release candidate. So too much holiday on checkout on my part.
There were messages crossed, etc. And also just not to confuse, but then we thought that we might do a preview first. But then after discussing with Scott and Steve, realize that then what happens is it bifurcates, right? Now we have to have a big this thing saying preview, and then we have to have another big one saying release. So you might as well release it. And I think, Scott, you are the prime mover directing it, and then I realize it's better, because there is not, we are only the only difference between these. That's what your question, right? You asked a question which is, what is the difference between a final release and the current release? Basically, input from outside people, right? So that might as well be 1.1. That's why. So it is all ready to go. I will go through the editors. I saw it through. It's not a big deal. I know all things are good.
When should we? My excitement is reaching high levels. When should we expect this then?
That's up to Scott, actually. Scott.
Yeah, as quickly as we can get it turned around, I think that I would like to. There's 2 things we'd like to do. Is Krishna, if we look at it, we say we want to run it through the person who will do sort of a layout to do a cleanup. Mm-hmm. She's pretty quick. She's pretty much like a 24-hour turnaround. Yeah. Dave, who I brought in to start to hit, was with technical editing. We're just kind of, I'll call it, onboarding him. So he took a little longer than I'd like, and I had some feedback with him. So I think that there's still some tuning to do on that part of the process. So sorry, Krishna, for being the beta tester on that part. But I think that if we just get the next turn on it, and you can let me know which one that is, and we can just push it over and just do final layout if you want to do that, just to make sure it's all tied out. And then I think then we need to just kind of put the blog out. If we can do it this week, then we can put out the blog next week and get it out the door.
We'll watch on LinkedIn to see the announcement there. And
yeah, we'll do a LinkedIn announcement. We're working right now. I'm meeting with the PR team later this week to try to figure out how we want to position any PR announcements for Q1. And so whether or not we would do a full PR pre-brief on this, we may bundle it with other things. So like we did before, we released the document, but then we did a PR push, which is a little bit different. So I don't want to slow down releases of resources. I want to just make sure that we use PR as an amplifier for that. And so we've got a couple things coming up. One is the thing that we haven't talked about yet, or we haven't promoted yet, which is the promotion of the project out of labs to production. And so that's one topic we want to kind of bring out to the world. That's happened, and so we just need to communicate that. So that's an important step. And then we can include that with the red teaming resources and talk about that as part of the PR. So let's try to see if we can get something out next week blog-wise and with the asset, and then we can see what we can do from a PR perspective. Because typically for PR, I like to have a couple of weeks to pre-brief folks.
For everyone on the call and we're watching this video, there will be announcements they can get in the next couple of weeks. They can get read it and spread the good news. And then exciting stuff in the next set of work. So anyone who wants to contribute, as always, Slack is the vehicle there, Scott and Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah. So the next set of work, so you will see the rest of the slides from Sandy on the Red Team Compass. So that is the next set of work from this particular initiative. And then some thoughts around testing and implementers handbook. Scott, we need to, I have to bug you again. We need to collaboration with CSA and SINAC, right? We need to restart that work.
And that's not a problem. They've been kind of waiting for us to kind of be ready.
Yeah, but we are ready now. I did send an email out, but I got a response from SINAC, but I didn't get anything from CSA.
Okay. All right. So I'll go ahead and bug CSA, and then I think we can just start. We'll get their engagement, but I think we should start kind of taking their resources they shared with us and starting to use that as a framework and start getting ready. Sometimes it's easier for them to respond because they're in Singapore. So time zone wise, it's sometimes easier for them to be responsive.
We'll have to figure out a strategy for the calls as well, but we will. So that is the second work. And then we can do a red lab, etc. Some ideas. I will leave it at that. We can have more larger discussions probably next time.
Excitement.
John will get upset at me,
No, not at all. I think
just kidding.
Any questions? Any questions from anyone on the call or any comments before I move to the next slide, which is equally exciting? Okay, then thank you very much, Krishna. Off you go, Sandy, to your exciting stuff.
Okay. And so this is an update on the definitions, which I talked to the team doing, I think, when was it, Scott? September. So it just hadn't made it to the top of my list, but I finally made some progress on it. So the proposal on this, why this is important is, as Scott said, now that we really have become kind of the go-to, the first place that people look for to understand about AI and security, it would give people a trusted source for definitions. The other benefit is to us as project members. If you look at any of our documentation, any of the projects that we do, there's a lot of space given up to just defining what we're talking about, and it would enable us to move that out of the documentation, simplify it, and then also make sure that we're consistent across projects. We're all agreeing on what those are. Next slide.
One quick point.
Okay.
Thank you, Sandy. This is exactly what we did. The first, we have only one line on our definitions. It says definitions. Definitions can be found in this particular link. We are done.
Oh, good.
On the red teaming doc. So beautiful. Well done. Thank you.
So, phase one will be updating the current list of definitions and also giving a source if possible. So, NIST or some standards body so that we're using one specific term. There's a Google sheet with definitions and initial adds. The purple is if it's highlighted in purple, that's a definition that exists on our definition page today. There's a proposed change on there, and let's see. In the process will be to go through, update these permissions, make sure and link to a source, a credible source, and then send to the core team for approval vote. So I'll probably just create some sort of a feedback loop so that people can go in, look, approve, not approve. Step two, the pipeline for proposed words. You can go out to the definitions page today, read through there. If there's a definition you think that should be on there that isn't on there, go ahead and ping me in the channel or send it to me on my email. And I'm hoping to have the first version of this, the updated page, done within 2 weeks. So I'll give you an update at our next OWASP meeting. Phase two is ongoing, so providing a monthly review of definitions and updating as needed. As we all know, things like, even agent, is now what wasn't a term that we really even talked that much about last year, and now it's become really important. For new releases of projects, review each project, move extra definitions to definitions page, and provide a link to the document. So I'm not saying that project leads need to go out and change all of their documentation right now. I'm just saying, keep this in your path. So when you plan on doing an update, let's see if we can reduce the size of the document, move any needed definitions out to the definition page. So, and if you're a logophile, contact me in the channel or via email, and I'll give you access to the Google Sheet.
Excellent. Next.
Yeah. So before I move on to that, any comments or questions on that?
No, that sounds right on in terms of process and timing. So that's great.
Okay. All the stuff we're doing will cross-reference to you from the agentic stuff. So that's great stuff there.
Perfect. And so this is my roadmap. Scott, if Steve was here, he'd be jumping up and down.
Yeah. Well, I know we've had a conversation about this a couple of times. Yes. So yes.
Yeah.
This is great.
So in the last meeting, I talked about, the checklist and how I was wrestling with how to update it and what the next version was. In the meantime, Sandra Schuloff asked me to be part of his AI red teaming class and teach part of that. And as I was creating my class, I realized I was actually operationalizing the checklist. And so for that class, I created a document called the AI red teaming compass, which is anyone can go out. I've shared the link to multiple people. It is very much a first, beta version. I have a lot of ideas on how to improve it. So my proposal is to retire the checklist after the next update to the Center of Excellence document. Keep this checklist, replace it with the OWASP red teaming compass or whatever name we decide to call it, and then retire the checklist after the next update to the Center of Excellence document. So if you'd like to be part of that, again, ping me in the channel or send me an email. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. Okay, the purpose, again, this is operationalizing the checklist, and it's really a methodology. I'm purposely making it, encouraging people to modify it. It's already got an open source license with it, but the purpose behind it is to kind of help people start building out a strategic and tactical way to understand what their threat is, and then start developing a strategy with that. So, being able to answer, what is the threat from AA to my organization? As we all recognize that, it's not necessarily the models or even the tools, it's that our adversaries are aggressively using these against us to be able to exploit environments more quickly. How do I quasi quantify it? And I want to use quantification with any quantification is typically a guess, but how do we guess better? And then how do I test? What should I test? Where should I test? What's a red teaming use case look like? And then how do I know which defenses to prioritize? So that's the purpose of this, is really giving people a tool so that they can start doing this analysis and coming up with their strategy. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. So before the first meeting, so as Krishna said, like one of the challenges we have as OWASP LLM team members is we're spread. We're all doing a lot of things and a lot of projects. So one of the things I talked to Krishna about was actually taking over. He had created a cadence with his AI red teaming meetings. And so I asked if it would be okay if I took over that meeting. And because many of the people who were involved with that, I anticipate will want to be part of this group too. So before our first meeting, which is scheduled for March 6th, which is a Thursday, download the current version. I've created a couple explanation videos and then join our conversations. Let's start having a discussion about it. The first meeting on March 6th, we'll walk through the current versions. I'll talk about planned defenses. I really want to add a lot of automation to it so that we're actually using this capability and the tools that we have available to us. And then get questions and feedback from everybody. For the second meeting, we'll do start doing our planning, our roadmap, target a date for release, and schedule a cadence for additional meetings. Any questions?
We can continue this one as a part of the red teaming meeting, so that way it is not just 2 meetings. We can just continue this discussion in the agenda all the time, right? And until it is released, etc.
Thank you, Krishna. And I want to say that, how thankful I am, Krishna, I had all of these ideas and it was in my head and I couldn't quite figure out how to pull the pieces together. And then when I was creating the course, it kind of all gelled, and Krishna was so wonderful about giving me feedback, and he was kind of my sanity test. So I just want to say thank you, Krishna.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Absolutely. That's right.
Okay. No questions? If you have questions, everybody should know how to reach me.
I have a question. If I want to do your course, where would I find it? Or is this a course that you created a course you mentioned?
Oh, okay. Yes. That is part of learnprompting.org's AI masterclass. And I think standard charge is like $1,800 to take the course. It just completed its first session, but they are planning another session.
Great stuff. Thank you for sharing, and I'm looking forward to taking that course. Any other questions or comments?
The one comment I'll make is that I'm planning to start to look at a revision to that. Since you mentioned the COE guide, Sandy, I'm planning to kind of look at doing something about mid-year around that for the next revision. Okay. So that means we'll probably back up probably a quarter when we start doing some. I think one of the things I want to do was to do some polls out to see how people are applying it, get some additional feedback on it, and then use that as an input into kind of what needs to be revised, etc. So my hope would be to do that before Black Hat as a general target from a timing perspective, but that's just broad brush, just to help you, because when you're thinking about your timing, that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I went through it. I did a diff on the documents. I think there's a couple things that we might want to move over, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot.
I think there was always an overlap. I think as a bigger fan of the checklist and the COE, that I use it regularly on the workshops. What I like about the checklist is it allows you to start and explore. I think it's great that we're moving it to the red teaming, but I think it may not always work in conversations I have with stakeholders and in a strategy day. So I think getting that Scott to the Center of Excellence document, which I really like because it tells me what the destination is. And I think we had this conversation, but having that where to start. That, I always use, Sandy, your our checklist. I would go there and say, well, this is, some of the things to think. So it would be good not to lose that.
John, so that's good feedback, and probably something as we come up with the final name, because seriously, and you watch the videos, like the purpose behind this is really strategic in helping people ask the questions.
Exactly, and I watched the videos and I shared some thoughts with you. I think the red teaming resonates with all of us, but when I talk to and normally what I see, I can share some feedback actually from the engagements that I do, is that I get invited primarily by program leaders who want me to help them take the CISOs and the cybersecurity people on the journey. And so the language there isn't always necessarily red teaming and all that. They struggle ahead of them. We need, and the checklist, Sandy, did a phenomenal job in helping me articulate those things. I said, ask those questions. So again, I think you're doing the right thing, and I really like the visual there, the compass. I love that, and I love the video. But let's have that conversation of how we help people start this journey.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it may be part of a continuum, right? So as we talked about, so kind of the COE guy was kind of the destination, is kind of where you want to target. We've got the checklist at the beginning. You've got this operationalizing of the checklist. Oh my gosh, more coffee needed. That kind of plays that bridging role almost, if you think about it maybe as a continuum for engagement. So you can start with, say, the checklist, you go to the operationalizing of that checklist with the compass, and that helps guide you toward where you want to get to with the COE destination.
Yeah, let's
I want to mention, sorry, John. I just want to mention Rock Lambros, who's on this call, who I've been having some fantastic conversations with. And he will be, very valuable to all of us to, just as another voice to say, hey, what are we trying to solve here, and who's our customers? So,
and he's being very active on the agentic stuff. So I agree with you. Yeah, let's have that. Rock, are you on the call?
Yep. Thank you for the shout out, Sandy. Happy to help. This stuff is fun.
Yeah, and Rock's been helping out on our outreach call, trying to get between Rock and the team oh God. Geez, coffee. I need it. Anyway, we're getting the message that we need to make sure we're not just dealing with one persona and one audience, and we're wanting to make sure that we're doing that outreach appropriately.
Internalize that I must have done, kind of dozens of workshops now. We're well ahead of the curve. So you need something to start that conversation. So that's, but you have the right material. And, Sandy, the work that you've done, invaluable in that direction. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Okay, this is where I think I have ads. Are you on the, sorry, before I do that, any other questions for Sandy before I move to the next topic? No? Great stuff there, Sandy. I'm looking forward to the conversations. And March the 6th, you said, right?
Yeah, first meeting March the 6th, because I have a 2-week vacation in February.
Well, if you're watching this, want to be part of that conversation, March the 6th on Slack, more details. Right. So ads, are you on the call? We're going to talk about, I thought it was an exotic creature, but no, it's something else. Off you go.
Hey guys. So I haven't been here in a while, but nice to see you all. I just wanted to throw a quick slide in here. We've talked a lot about trends and topics, and we talked a lot about equipping people with tools. One thing that a colleague of mine, myself and a colleague at my company yesterday actually published an open source tool. It's a dynamic analysis tool for loading, running, and profiling like a bunch of different file types, including machine learning models, executables, which are commonly like high attack vectors in our list. So over the trends, we've seen supply chain rise from like whatever it was and to number 3. data poisoning has expanded to data and model poisoning, and this is like a common attack vector in the industry. I just wanted to share this. It's an open source tool. It's available to anyone. Would just love some contributions, some feedback. Always super welcome. The demo isn't really loading because it's kind of like it's a GIF, John. So if you refresh your page, it will do eventually. Yeah, it's kind of like obviously you start talking and the GIF's like gone. I was messing around with it, but I had to get to refresh the page.
Okay, let me do that then.
Are you doing it on like Google Slides or? Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Sorry. There you go.
Yeah, because it kind of plays once. But yeah, it's one of the problems that we kind of saw in the industry is that there are no tools available to this, like the open source. There definitely are open source, so there's definitely a lot of room for expansion. There's things like GPU profiling as well, so this kind of tool we see it as suitable for model developers, any other kind of developers, security engineers, whether that be blue team, purple team, or even red team if they're testing exploits. Gives you like an executable and a sandbox safe environment for you to load model files, and it'll execute a report into JSON and kind of give you feedback on that. We've also tested a bunch of models available on things like Hugging Face and like got some really interesting results. So yeah, that's actually me. Yeah, it's a nice. It's kind of a long GIF. If you kind of if you kind of like expand the image which I put in there, just in case the GIF or whatever didn't load. It's kind of everything. I mean, the link to the repo is on there. It's available on PyPy as well, so we have published it there, so you can just install it via pip or whatever package manager you use. And yeah, I would just suggest if you're kind of in that realm, which I know a lot of people in this room and who are involved in the project are, then yeah, we just love some contributions and feedback. More than welcome. And thank you.
So question, Ad. So are you thinking, do we want to just add this to the list of other solutions that are on our solutions guide? Or are you also thinking about, contributing the project to OWASP, just so we can think about, because I know there's been some other thoughts about like contributing stuff to the project. I've been asked about that, and we don't yet have quite clear governance on that yet. But I just wanted to.
Sorry, sorry, dude. I kept cutting you off. At this point, I would just like it to be included on the solution landscape, I think it's called, if that's okay with you. Be much appreciated. And we do have more tools that cover those different kind of areas of the pipeline. So we'd love to get those involved and kind of feedback on those. But yeah, sorry, long story short, and the solutions landscape would be really great, please. And thank you.
Maybe you can have a look at that solution and see, if you have other tools. Scott, I don't mean to stop you, but there is a...
no, I already have. I think this would, there's a few places this would fit in, but if you want me to if you need me to clarify that, then let me know. But yeah, is it
I can send you I can send you the link too, because we're using the link so folks know in general, if you are finding a solution that you want to add to the solutions guide, when you go to our website, genai.owasp.org, and you go to the solutions landscape, there is a button there to go ahead and submit a solution, and that will direct you to a Google form. The reason we're doing that is to make sure that we have an auditable trail in terms of what gets submitted. So if there are any questions about placement or how it's being defined in the landscape, we have feedback, so we can make sure that we have continuity for where those changes come in. And so in that, you kind of put in an entry for each phase of the life cycle that you support, the particular tool, and then what parts of the LLM top 10 that you cover as part of that. That's just the process that we have. That way, that list then gets updated to the online directory. And then for the landscape diagram and for the landscape and for the solutions guide, we pull from that directory once a quarter and do updates to that. That directory is updated with website updates probably every 2 weeks, I think, on average. But use that Google link, use a Google form that you can find the link on the solutions landscape page to add any new solutions.
There you go.
Thanks, Scott. Will do. John, if you don't mind, just click it. Do you mind click it open in the repo for 2 seconds? Just because I want to kind of show a decent review. Thank you. There we go. So if you're going to scroll down here, for example, I'll just give you like an example output. If you keep scrolling down below installation. So these are the kind of responses that you're getting. So we see like support executable files, model files, which come from the auto model library. There's Pickle further down, and it also covers JavaScript dependencies as well. So even like stuff non-typically related to AI, but something that may still be in your pipeline. It shows you like network calls, like let's say example Python scripts. You can see that it's been executed. So yeah, thank you.
Great stuff. So if you're watching this has been a fantastic slide because you've learned 2 things: how to submit solutions to the landscape and solution guide, and how to play with this, what looks very promising tool. Thank you very much.
The other thing I suggest is maybe what we can do is either do a stream or a webinar where we can talk about you can talk about it in some more detail. My goal is to also turn on by the end of the month a learning page on our website, and so people will get some email requests on that, which will allow you to put videos on that from our community, from webinars that we're doing, etc. So people have a central resource to go to for some of that. I would suggest maybe thinking about a webinar or something like that for this.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Aubrey, if you're listening, I know we recently just did a podcast on agents, but if you want to do it that kind of style, I'm happy to be Dirtmo #1 for this, and you could, that sounds cool.
I relish the opportunity.
We're actually now with the outreach team that we've been meeting now. We just met again this first part of the year earlier this week for the first time this year. There's a queue developing, Aubrey, of webinars. We have one right now from Mend who would like to do a webinar, and we need to schedule time for that. And so I think we're going to start to get some good content that we continue to promote. So,
yeah, I'm excited for it. And sorry I couldn't hit the meeting Monday. Just had a doctor's appointment. But
no worries.
But let's catch up on that. I'm excited to schedule that as soon as possible.
Great.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Az. Thank you, Scott. So let's move to the next one, which is actually mine. And let me talk about the Agentic Security Initiative, or SI, as we call it affectionately. So it has been an enormous amount of contributions there. First, we have had some good people that we will share the names soon. I'm working with Scott on starting a kickoff. Scott, I'll schedule something with you for the last week of January. We had a few other people actually who asked to join. So the people that it's not necessarily cross-project coordination, but it's bringing people in that otherwise they wouldn't have the time. They're very influential in their space. So it will be a good review layer to the work that we do. In a similar vein, Ali, I don't know if she's on the call. I don't think she is. She started sending out a good survey on startups. We started with startups, but we'll also repeat it with other organizations because the questions are actually very similar in understanding, are they using agents? What are the patterns? What are the problems that they face? 25 responses so far. If you want to share it with other startups, contact myself or Ali. But interesting that 72% of them are familiar with OWASP top 10 for LLMs, which is a great number to have there. 25% an AI agent in production. Most of them have started building. Orchestration of third-party tools or APIs seems to be the key theme there. And the top concern so far is hallucinations, explainability, and auditability. But there are some other nuances there when we discuss people individually around shared memory corruption, more specific to agentic stuff. But that's a great start to actually get and build a, if you like, a sphere of influence around the initiative and bring in expertise and knowledge, not just opinions really, which was the main objective of this. And then in terms of the actual work, we have spent quite a bit of time, perhaps more than I would have liked, but sometimes you need to understand the patterns. What is agentic AI and what is it with threat modeling? So now we have a list which is open for review, and I'm sharing actually a review form for everyone on the channel. And we're going through, we had a couple of threat models on single agent and multi-agent, but you can see we have some additional stuff. And we're doing some workshops, more kind of directed work on finalizing the threat models, finalizing the definitions, and then myself and Ron, acting as the leads, were editorializing the document we shared with what it's going to look like, so that we can share them for general review. So that will happen next week. We have more GitHub samples. That seems to be a very popular part, and Ron is driving that, and a lot of contribution, massive amount of contribution, including an excellent paper of my co-lead, Ron, I don't know if he's on the call, on the human in the loop controls and how actually plays in an agentic environment. So that will go in, will influence the output of what we do, but it's worth reading it in itself, really. It's on LinkedIn. So that's where we are. We're still kind of tracking February, the threat model and the vulnerabilities. Were a little bit overambitious. We wanted to have the full guide in February, but that isn't going to happen, but that's fine. It gives us plenty of time to standardize and make this consumable. So we had so much, this is, if you like, a generative phase. People contributed tons of stuff, great stuff. So now it's how do we keep it as reference if anyone wants to dive in, but present something that people consume easily, like all the other documentation that we have. We meet every Monday after your outreach call, actually, Scott, and I deliberately shifted it so that it doesn't clash.
Yes.
You can come to Slack channel, and I put there the code for anyone who's watching this and wants to find. We have a Google Sheet information doc there with all the information. Maybe Scott will work together to move all that into the page, the initiatives page on the website. But that's the way it happens. But if you're watching this, we really love people's contributions. So come and join us. Any questions or comments? And Rock also gets a second mention that he is an active part of that and a very good one. So thanks, Rock.
Thank you. I can't deal with all the love.
What's that?
I said I can't deal with all the love.
Enjoyed while it's last. Any questions or comments? Nope. Okay, so then the next one, which is not mine, but I've been asked to remind everyone on the call, because I think it will be too late by the time you watch this. So the Emmanuel has produced a fabulous white paper on LLM data security best practices for 2025. The review ends tonight. It's a really important topic of how we secure data in an LLM environment. So again, there is a link there. Go and read it and provide your feedback. And then the next one, I think it's from you, Scott, right?
Yeah, it's for me. So this is just a quick heads up, because we talked a little bit about this at the end of last year, and as you can see from the numbers and everything that we're doing, we've been expanding quite a bit, and there's been a lot of asks that I get in terms of how can I get engaged in which groups, and how do we do that efficiently. So one of the things we recognized before the years that we have a lot of our governance is in pieces in different parts of the group. So some pieces are on GitHub, some pieces are elsewhere, some are standalone docs. So as our growth strategy, as our project has grown, now it's time to kind of just package some of that up to make it easier for people to adopt. A lot of what we've been doing has been a combination of our tribal knowledge and our agreements we've had and how we've operated. We've adopted, whether we knew it or not everybody perhaps knew it, but when we started the project, we kind of took that matriotic governance model. That's the approach that we've taken, and it's the same approach used by other projects. We just haven't written it necessarily down, and to the degree that we need to. So over the break, I had been taking a lot of our documentation that we've had around governance, consolidating that, coming up with definitions around the different terms and working groups that are aligned to the way the other groups are operating. And we'll have a version of our updated consolidated guidance coming up in a couple of weeks' time. And so the goal here is to just simply make it easier for folks to be part of the community, understand how decisions are made, understand how to propose initiatives, for example, or initiatives. Governance is in a different bucket. It's a separate document from other stuff. Anish has been helping us kind of continue to evolve our content usage guidelines doc. That's separate, that needs to be included. We today operate with our co-lead model, plus our core team model, plus our initiative leads. And so while many of us know how that all operates, if you're brand new to the project, you're kind of scratching your head. So we want to do those things that are going to help make it easier for people to onboard, and also help us to grow and sustain ourselves through 2025 and beyond. So that's the approach. There's not going to be any major differences for anybody who's been involved with the project. We're just going to have better framing and writing down exactly how we're operating. There will be some things like some committees that we may suggest, some new committees now that we have fiscal responsibilities. We have to kind of look at budget committee type functions that we haven't had in the past, but to make sure that we're spending appropriately, et cetera. So there'll be a few additionals like that. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that this is something we're working on to make sure that it can be our community people can continue to join in quickly, be part of it, understand how to engage, and help us to scale how we operate kind of going forward.
Presumably there will be an update when it's finalized so that people know where to go and read it if they need to.
Correct. Yep. It will be published. It will be published on the website very prominently, so that people can understand how we're operating, working.
Great stuff, and it's good to have that kind of how people join and what.
It's sort of the unfun stuff, but it's sort of it's not my favorite thing to do, but it's one of those things that became clear that we need from feedback from folks that we need to do it. And it allows us to formalize things that we've talked about, John, like the advisory committee or whatever the name that comes up for sort of the other group, for the review group, the distinguished review team.
I think it's transparency that gives, many people will ping you on Slack and say, what about this and what about that? And then having that clarity and transparency, I think it's fair to everyone.
Yeah, it'll just shorten a lot of our Slack conversations and email conversations to be able to point people to a document and say, here you go.
Exactly. Any questions or comments on this from anyone else? We say this the unfun bit, but we're looking forward to publication.
Yeah.
And then that leads us to my keyboard decided to stop. There was another one, which I didn't know it was. Who is that? Rachel, is that you?
Or Brian?
Yeah. So I speak for us. So yeah, apologies for kind of slipping this in at the last moment.
No problem.
Brian was on top of it. I was on the spot there. I was like, wait, I did what?
That's awesome.
I was in meetings for since 8 a.m. today, so I did this in about 2 minutes. So apologies. So anyways, so we have two key things we have coming up for the AI CTI layer. First of all, Rachel and I will be hosting a kickoff/planning meeting to identify key deliverables for this year. So if you're interested in joining on that, please come to our channel and drop a vote, which I thought I'd put the channel name in there, but I believe it's team _ like AI-CTI or something like that. I can post it in the general chat. But in case the current kind of topics that we have are restarting the AI incident guide development process, which we had to put on pause last fall. Next is the LLM exploit generation initiative phase 2, and I'll get to more of that in a second. Third is whether we want to do a deepfake guide, update or revision sometime in the fall. Thank you for putting that in there, Kara. Second major topic is the LM Exploit Generation Initiative is going to have its first deliverable coming out by the end of the month. I'm responsible for doing some final edits on the draft, so I will have this to the core team chat by tonight, seeking feedback through the 22nd. After that, the kind of core authors who were involved in that will kind of reconnoiter, kind of look at the feedback, and then hopefully we'll have a target publication final week of January. Scott, I'll reach out separately about that publication process. We initially thought it would be more of a blog post, but after kind of writing it out, it's about 10 pages now, probably going to be a little longer. So we'll kind of release it more as like kind of a report / paper.
That's a bit more than a blog post, yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
And, just to kind of preview, it's, kind of trying to think through what are the practicalities of using offensive AI agents for hacking. And we use them on the OWASP Juice Shop. So great little brand tie-in there. But yeah, looking forward to your feedback, and apologies for kind of sneaking that in there, John. Thank you.
No, that's great. And so if people wanted, if they're watching this and they want to come find more, is on the team-LLM_AI-CTI, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent, great. Any questions or comments on this exciting stuff from Brian and Rachel? Nope. But then I was going to say I'm going to close, but just in case there is another one. Oh no, this is it. So, and this is where we got to the end of the topics we had, and this is where we'll have open discussion for anyone who has any questions on any topics they want to discuss. Anything from
So
anyone?
I'll throw one last one in there just because I always do. And this way I didn't have to create a slide, but it's short. So I do have the contract in hand for RSA. We will be doing the summit at RSA, so we are good to go there. So I just wanted to confirm that. It'll be on the Wednesday of RSA, starting at 8:30 and running till 12:30. We'll send out a notice saying hold the date within the next week without details, but other than that's when it'll be. And we have a room right now scheduled that's sized between 200 and 300 people that we can that we'll be able to house. And so we'll work on the agenda and we'll set a working team to do that. The other ask was around doing labs. To do a lab session. They do not have space for lab, but we do have access to all the hotels as a sponsor, so as well as a couple other locations. So I'm looking for a location for us to book for a lab session. I also will need a lead to kind of help us to, so we have a lot of stuff we put together for labs in the past, but with the new content that we have coming out, we may want to rethink what that was. There was a red teaming one before, but with more red teaming stuff coming out, plus the agentic stuff, we may want to think about what that labs would be. And then we'll find another place for that. We do not currently have a booth because OWASP didn't make last year didn't make the requirements for booth. But we can opt, if we choose to purchase a booth. So we do have the option to purchase a booth if we really feel like we want to do that. It will be $10K. So we'll have to look at, which is much less than you would pay as a vendor to get a booth there. So I'll just let you all know that is happening for sure. And now we just need to kind of work on the details. Stay tuned.
This year I'm coming from the UK, so hope to see you all then.
It's great. I'm done now.
And so, Scott, just for anyone who's watching and hasn't made it to the call, so all this is part of the outreach channel, right? If they want to
yes.
Find out. Okay, great. Anything from anyone else after this super exciting announcement that it is happening, the RSA? No? Well, very good timing. It's 1 minute before we complete the hour. Are there any questions or comments? Or right? No. Thank you very much, then, everyone. Nice to see you all. 2 weeks time. I'm looking forward to more updates. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks for checking out our bi-weekly meeting podcast. If you'd like to stay up to date on all the latest news for the OWASP Top 10 for large language model applications, please click subscribe. And of course, we'd appreciate it if you'd share with a friend to grow our community. We'll see you in 2 weeks.